Welcome to Halacha in a Year, where we can get to learn all the most relevant halacha through the prism of the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch. You are listening to Rabbi Ya'akov Trump. This year is kindly sponsored by the Moshe Group and CA in zechus of Rivka Biela bas נחמה שיפרה and in honor of Rabbi Trump. Today we're going to learn the halachas about Shabbos Torah reading. Although we learned the halachas of Torah reading in general when we looked at Siman the 24th chapter in the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch, today we're going to look in our 70th chapter in Ayin Ches some of the halachas that pertain more specifically to Shabbos Torah reading as well. A little bit of background. On Shabbos, we bring out the Torah and we read Parashas HaShavua. This takana, this enactment goes back all the way to the times of Moshe Rabbeinu of reading Torah on Shabbos. The way we do it today is we have 7 aliyos. We break up the Parashas HaShavua into 7 different sections, each one called an aliyah, an ascent. And on Yom Kippur, one does 6 aliyos, 5 on Yom Tov, 4 on Rosh Chodesh, and 3 on a regular weekday. There's always, the beginning is always Kohen, Levi, Yisrael, the priest, the Levite, and regular Yisrael. Then on Shabbos, you would follow with another 4 aliyahs of Yisrael. Following the aliyahs, a chatzi kaddish, or half kaddish, is recited. And on Shabbos and Yom Tov, the last little section is reread, or a section relating to the specific day is read called Maftir, and that person also gets what's called the Haftarah, which is a section of Navi with its brachas before and after. We'll discuss in the next chapter some of those halachas. Let's jump straight into a few basic questions. Number of aliyahs. So look at 7 basic questions here. Can we add on aliyahs? The answer is on Shabbos one may add in what's called a hosafa, an additional aliyah, but one may not do that on any other day. So one cannot, on a Yom Tov, if one has 5 aliyahs, one cannot add a hosafa. Only on Shabbos, when one has completed the 7, one can add in another one, or subdivide one of the aliyahs into an extra aliyah. Can a Kohen or a Levi get the added aliyah, the acharon? The answer is yes. What about maftir? Yes as well. Can a Kohen get acharon and another Kohen get maftir? The answer is yes. So that's oftentimes happens when there's a simcha and there's a number of people who are part of the simcha who may be kohanim or levim. What about on Simchas Torah? So on Simchas Torah we bring out 3 Torahs, one we learn v'zos habracha, one we learn bereshis, and one we learn maftir from. So the person who gets chassan Torah and chassan bereshis and maftir can all be kohanim or levim, and one after the other because the regular learning of Yom Tov has been completed at that time. What about Shabbos Rosh Chodesh K'teves on Chanukah? That's a 3 Sefer Torah experience. So what about that situation? So the way it usually works is the first six aliyahs are learned from the first Torah. That's from usually Parashas Miketz. Then the last aliyah is Shabbos Rosh Chodesh, and then there's the maftir as well. So in this case, the Kohen cannot get an aliyah for the first Torah because that's still part of the laning of that Shabbos. It's still within the first 6 aliyahs. Even if one added all stuff and there's more aliyahs, but what he can get from any acharon or maftir afterwards. What if the guy mistakenly called up a Kohen or a Levi in the middle of the call-up? So let's say aliyah number 5 he gave on a Shabbos to a Kohen. In that case, the Kohen may not take the aliyah. He goes up, he waits by the side, and then he would wait until he get the acharon. So he's not being rejected, but he cannot take the aliyah in the middle as well. Let's look at the next topic, which is the breakdown of aliyahs. In our second concept, we're going to look at 9 questions. So how does the aliyah work on a double parasha? Let's say I have 2 parashas together, Vayakel Pekudei, I have Tazria Metzora. How does it work? So in this case, the aliyahs are bridged. So usually the merge goes aliyah 1 and 2 to 3 and 4 and so on. But it is important to notice that the 4th aliyah of the parasha, of the double parasha, is one which is going to be a merger of the one parasha and the other. So it'll usually be the last aliyah of parasha A will be merged with the first aliyah of parasha B, and that'll be the 4th aliyah of the joint parasha. That's how it works with the double parasha laning. What are the places that one cannot stop in the middle of the laning for? So the Kitzur mentions 3 distinct places, or there are other places in the Torah, but the most famous ones are the curses that are found in Parashas V'chukos, the curses in Parashas Kisavai, and the Chet HaEgel in Parashas Kisisa. Those are areas that cannot be broken up. He also points out that one is not allowed to break up the 42 encampments, which are the Membeis Masa Ois, the 42 times where the nation of Israel camped in the desert, which are read in the first aliyah of Parashas Masa, and that's because, as the Magen Avraham points out, they relate to the 42 words of Hashem's extended name, or letters of Hashem's long extended name, and therefore one cannot make a break in that. when can the aliyah begin or end? So it must be there must be a 3-pasuk barrier before or after punishment sections in the Torah. When does one change one's level of voice when laning? So when one laning an area of punishment, one lowers the voice. The Kabal Koreh would lower their voice and do it faster, like in Bechokosaki and Kisisa and Kisavoy. All those sections are done faster and lower. Obviously, it still needs to be heard and audible to the community. What should be done between the aliyahs? The Torah needs to be rolled rolled closed. So let's say the person finishes the aliyah, the person who gets the aliyah kisses with the tzitzis, the end of the aliyah, says the bracha, and it needs to be closed really before the bracha is said as well. It doesn't need to be covered. So only if there's a long break between aliyahs. What constitutes a long break? So let's say before maftir, they're going to say Kaddish, or let's say a chassan's getting his afraf, and there needs to be there's going to be singing, or let's say even a mishaberach. In those situations, the one should cover the Torah. But if one's not, let's say it's a regular weekday, and one just calls up Kohen, and then one calls up Levi, and there's no interruptions between it, then the Torah can be rolled closed, but does not need to be covered in between as well. What if we mistakenly read 6 aliyahs at the end and got to the end of the parasha? So we just forgot to stop between 6 and 7, just went to the end of the parasha. Now usually there's somebody who's awake in the shul will catch that, but let's say somebody didn't catch that in this case. What do we do? So in that case, you read the maftir as the 7th aliyah, and then do the haftarah, and the chatzi kaddish would come afterwards. And somebody do Yom Tov, the same thing. If let's say they read 4 aliyahs and they reach the end of the aleining, they would then use the maftir as the 5th aliyah, and then haftarah, and then chatzi kaddish after haftarah. What if it was a Shabbos which needed 3 sefer Torah and there are only 2 sifrei Torah? So in that case, it's better to read from number 1. After reading from it, roll it to the place of Torah number 3, then pull out number 2 and read from it, and then pull out the first Torah again, which has just been rolled, and put it as the Torah for the 3rd place as well. This way, the number 2 remains as the number 2, so you're not doing less changes. Now, let's move into our 3rd concept: mistakes. We discussed in the Siman in the chapter 24, Chav Daled, a lot of the halachas, the mistakes when it comes to finding a mistake in the Sefer Torah. But a few ideas that relate to Shabbos. What happens if a mistake was found in the maftir on Shabbos? So it depends. If it was a special maftir, let's say as Rosh Chodesh, or one of the 4 parashios, and a mistake is found in it, and then therefore it's a unique maftir, in that case, one would treat it like finding a mistake in the Sefer Torah itself, and depending on where one finds it, one would have to bring out a new Torah. However, if one finds it on a maftir of a regular week, one's just repeating the last 3 psukim of the parasha, then one would complete the maftir, not bring out a new Torah, and simply say no bracha afterwards as well. Why on a regular Shabbos is it different and we don't bring out a new Sefer Torah? The answer is because the maftir was instituted for the following reason. When we call out people for Haftarah to read from Nevi'im, we want to make sure that it doesn't look like the Haftarah is more important than the Torah. So a person who gets the Haftarah will also get a maftir to show what's most important is the Torah, and secondarily is the Navi. What if a mistake was found before the first bracha on the maftir? So the Kitzur suggests it's best to bring out another Torah in such a situation because one hasn't started yet. Mishnah Berurah says if Kaddish was not said, the person call up for the 7th aliyah can really simply do the Haftarah, and you don't need to do a maftir in this case as well. What if a mistake was found before starting, but there is no other Torah around? There's nothing you can bring back. So then the Kitzur says a person who got the last aliyah should do the Haftarah, and if Kaddish was not said, it should be said after the Haftarah as well. What if a mistake was found in a chaser or a yeser, which means an extra letter which does not change pronunciation or meaning? We noted that to be constituted a mistake in the Sefer Torah, it needs to be that there's a change in pronunciation in the writing, or a change of, in the way it's written, or a change of meaning. But let's say it is neither. So let's say there's an extra yud, an extra vav, an extra aleph, which don't change the meaning or the pronunciation of that word. In that case, what happens if such a mistake is found? So although we know that during the weekday a new Torah is not needed to be brought out, on Shabbos there's an extra interesting addendum, and that is you're not allowed to make chosafos. You're not allowed to make extra aliyahs on a Torah, which is not optimal. In this case, rather, what is best to do is just to do 7 aliyahs, not to do a maftir, just in this case, because you don't want to be calling this person up as well. The last person, the 7th aliyah, will be the person who gets the Torah as well. And the Kitzur suggests not bringing this Torah out again for mincha. Another Torah should be brought out because it's not lachachila, it's not the best case scenario. What happens if it is Shabbos, when two Torahs are brought out and a mistake is found in Torah number 1. So in that case, better to bring out a replacement for number 1 rather than using number 2 and rolling it for number 1, since the number 2 is already designated to be the maftir. So bring out another Torah for number 1 and use number 2 as number 2. What if we brought out 2 Sefer Torah and we put the wrong one on the bima for the parish, for the main reading? So in that case, just switch it. This is not a problem because let's say that the case was that one took the wrong Sefer Torah. There's only one Torah on Shabbos, and one took that wrong Sefer Torah out into the wrong place. In that case, you cannot put it back into the Aron because it would look like there's a defect in the Sefer Torah. You have to sit there and roll it. That's the halacha. But if one took out the 2 correct Sefer Torah, one just put the wrong one of them on the bima, then switch them because there's no implication of a defect on the Sefer Torah for the simple reason that that in this case both of them are in fact being used. The last topic we're going to touch on today is the notion of chiyuvim. Those are obligated to get an aliyah and the precedence of those chiyuvim. So let's just go through. The Kitzur makes a very brief list, which makes it helpful to know, especially for gabayim, who are the people who are required to get an aliyah. Number 1 is a groom on the day of his marriage. So let's say a young man is getting married on a Monday and he's in shul on a Monday morning. He should get an aliyah. He's the first precedent. Number 2 is a groom on the Shabbos before his marriage. That's called an afruf. Let's say he's getting married sometime this week. That person should get an aliyah that Shabbos beforehand. Number 3 is a boy who became bar mitzvah just this last week. That boy should get an aliyah on the Torah that week. Number 4 is a sandek, the person who's going to hold the baby on the day of the bris milah. Number 5 is a kfater, the person who will bring the boy in to the bris milah, like is called a sandek who carries the boy in. Number 6 is a man whose wife returns to shul for the first time after having childbirth. He needs to say a birkas hagomel for her, or she needs to say birkas hagomel, and so an aliyah is required in such a situation. Number 7 is a groom who just got married in the past week from Wednesday onwards. Or it would be the Shabbat Chatan in Sephardic tradition. That person should get an aliyah as well. So then the 8th is a person who's got a bo bayom yortzeit. The yortzeit for their parent is that day. Number 9 is the father of a baby on the day of the milah. And number 10 is a person who has yortzeit in the coming week. This is the most common situation, but it's actually pretty far down on the list of obligations, just to put that out there. And then there's an emohel on the day of the milah. And finally, if there's a milah in the upcoming week, the sandek, the father, and the mohel in that order should get aliyahs. That's the list of the basic list of responsible people to give a aliyah to. However, what happens if you have 2 equal level of chiyuvim? So you have only one aliyah open, and there are 2 people who have a baba yom yortzeit. So either the gabbai should make a decision, or a lottery should be done. They just flip a non-Shabbos coin to figure out who gets it. What about a visitor? So a visitor from out of town does not push aside a local chiyuv. A person who is a local chiyuv has the rights to that precedence because they live in the community. They pay the dues of that community. That is one of the benefits of being a member of a community. Whereas a person is walking in, it is nice to offer them if there's nothing else. There's nothing else in the way, but the locals do get precedence in this respect as well. Are there any other things to take notice of? The answer is, of course. The Kitzur brings that a person who's going out for a journey, a person just returned for a journey, an important guest should get an aliyah. But there's many other things. There's anniversaries, there's birthdays. These are not chiyuvim. These are nice things, and sensitive gabayim and sensitive shuls will try to make sure that people are taken care of. But these are not the kind of things that should make people upset if they do not get it as well. And finally, last point is what happens if aliyahs are sold? So you'll notice that in some places they will sell off or they will auction off the aliyahs. In that case, those are the people who buy them get the precedence as well. Although he points out that a bar mitzvah or a afruf should obviously still get, even in a case where it's auctioned off. But otherwise, because the money is going to charity, that would actually take precedence over the regular list of precedence, which is in the case of where there's an absence of giving it to charity. With this, we conclude. Have a wonderful and meaningful day.